What is going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Mess up there. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, we're going to be talking about what do the Charlotte Hornets necessarily need going into this draft, because like I've said in the last couple of videos that we're about to go real draft heavy for the next month. I don't want to just show you kind of the top guys. I want to show you some of the guys on the back end, because we do have another pick at 42, and I just want to kind of make you as familiar with this draft as possible. Lots of things can happen. We don't really know the direction of the Hornets. The only thing I think we do know is that they've already expressed that they're not interested in trading the pick. However, that could be a smoke screen. Anything could be smoke screens at this point. Like this morning, I saw something that Stephon Castle truly only wants to play point guard and will not. I can't remember if it will not work out or he just has no intention of going to a team that already has point guard. And as you know, we already have LaMelo. So the Hornets wouldn't be an option for him. Is that true? Do players say that all the time? Yes, but like I said, is it true? I don't think so. But we'll see. I mean, it doesn't matter. We have plenty of guys in this draft we can pick from. So I have my trusty I would say dusty, but yeah, my trusty computer here just to go over some notes that I have. But yeah, this is going to be statistically explaining what the Charlotte Hornets need. I know if you can kind of look on screen, like if you watch film, there will be some things that also may stick out that may not have like a stat to go with it. But comparing it to players in the draft class and then comparing to what we need statistically, I thought it'd just be an easier comparison for the sake of the video. All these stats are from post All-Star break, just because I felt like even though post All-Star break you have a funky thing going on with the rosters all across the league where some players aren't playing and you know teams are getting ramped up for the playoffs, that for us was that's very close to what our team is going to look like next year. Of course, you know, we're missing LaMelo, missing Mark Williams, so they will be added, and then Cody Martin, Seth Curry also missed some time, missed like a majority of the second half of the season. So yeah, all these stats will be post the All-Star break, just because that's kind of the team we're rolling with into next year. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that the Charlotte Hornets need, that I don't think anybody needs to tell you, I don't need to tell you this, is three-point shooting. They shot 34.7% from three last year, like I said, post All-Star break, which is good enough for 25th in the league. Not good at all. And when you look at the players we have kind of like returning, guys who didn't really get to make an impact on that number, it's not pretty. LaMelo Ball shot 36%. That really wouldn't, him shooting 36% alone in his 22 games going into next year, if he shot 36%, it really wouldn't move the needle that much in terms of our three-point shooter overall as a team. Seth Curry, he only shot 32%, but only through 8 games. I expect, he's like a career 40% three-point shooter, so I expect it to go higher. Do I expect it to be 40%? No, but do I expect it to be like 36, 37? Yeah, and that's if we keep him. I'm not sure that it's guaranteed that he's coming back. And that's something we'll also look at this season, or this offseason, is just more into contracts, because, you know, there's special things with Davis Bertans' contract, Seth Curry's contract. We'll get into all of that when the time comes. And then also you look at Cody Martin, only shooting 31% in 28 games. I mean, there's no telling with Cody Martin. He came into the league not being able to shoot that well. Then he had that one season where he shot extremely well, and then he's been kind of injured ever since. So can you really rely on him to get the three-point shooting? So yeah, as you can tell, our three-point shooting has been horrendous. And even with our best player coming back, there's no guarantee that it's going to really take the step it needs to take in order for us to be a team we expect to be, or at least want to be. But there's guys in this class, unfortunately, their shooting is really good, but then they lack in other areas. Reed Shepard's one that comes to mind. He's an extremely good shooter. He's just small. Dalton Connect is a really good shooter. His defense lacks a little bit. Teams hunt him on defense, and for good reason. He's a good off-ball defender, but not really a good on-ball defender. He did get, I wouldn't say lucky, but he is good at like allowing pressure and kind of meeting you at the rim. Can we guarantee something like that works in the NBA? I don't know, but we'll see. As I made a post on Twitter, maybe I'll talk about it in a video soon, but I made a post on Twitter talking about how I compared all the potential Charlotte Hornets and other NBA players' combine measurements, and his was very similar to Klay Thompson, who we know before injury, he was a really good defender for the Golden State Warriors. So he has what it takes. It's just a matter of effort and learning just how to position himself. So yeah, that's the thing you're going to get in this draft. Is it may fix one problem that we have, but does it fix multiple? No, I mean, not really for a lot of guys. There's a lot of potential, like for guys like Ron Holland, Montes Buzelis. There's potential for those guys, Stephon Castle as well. You're like, oh, well, if they fix this, it really will help. But you got to think about the floor, and what if they never, fix that? So that's why a draft's so crazy. That's why particularly a draft like this is so crazy. Next, we're going to move on to rebounding. That's one where I don't think you need to look at the stats either to tell that we have a problem with rebounding. Teams just dominate us on the glass, it's always been strange to me because of the fact that we have other players that are good rebounders. Like we have Miles Bridges, we have Brandon Miller, we have LaMelo Ball. We have guys that can rebound, that the rebounding doesn't have to rely on the center. But still, Mark Williams has some tremendous games. Even Nick Richards has had some tremendous games on the boards. But overall, as a team, we need to rebound the ball much better. In rebounding last year, mind you, we were missing Mark Williams and LaMelo, who are two prominent rebounders for this team. After All-Star break, we had 39.2 rebounds per game, which was good enough for last in the NBA. Mark Williams brings you 9.7. If you're thinking about what he was doing pre-injury, which that's 19 games worth, I would take that. I think that's something that you can look at 19 games and it may not go up to like 11 rebounds a game, but after looking at 19 games, you think he can stay around that 9 to 10 range, which I think will be good for us. And then LaMelo Ball, his 5 rebounds per game. So rebounds is one of those stats where if Mark Williams comes in, LaMelo Ball comes in, they're getting rebounds. Of course, someone else loses rebounds. So I wouldn't look at that and say with them two back, we're going to our rebound is going to get better. It's going to get better, but is it going to really be where it needs to be? Because when I say that specifically for us right now in the current state of Charlotte Hornets, be where it needs to be is just middle of the road. If we can just get into the middle of the road, I think we'll be happy. And currently, our rebound is just lackluster. I mean, we lack size, which is something I really want. And that's why guys like Cody Williams, as much as I like his size and his wingspan is tremendous, he doesn't really rebound at the rate you would want him to. Montes Buzelis does. So it's just, once again, picking and choosing, which we'll get more into that as the draft process goes on. But those are the type of guys that can fix it. Of course, getting another center could fix it. I'm just not in the market for a center. Also, if you look at the 2025 draft class, they have a lot more centers that are not all, towards the front. You got some guys that are, could fall in lottery, after post lottery, things like that. So I wouldn't really just rush to get Donovan Clingan, knowing about the draft class next year, and we already have Mark Williams and Nick Richards. All right, had to take care of some baby stuff. But anyway, we move on to the next thing I think the Charlotte Hornets need help with, and that is rim protection / shot contest. Believe it or not, our three-point defense wasn't that bad. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't, only because it was in that early 20s, late teens range, in which that's all I'm trying to get to right now as far as where we are with the Hornets. Of course, I want to be top 10. Of course, I want to be top 15 in a lot of things, but just thinking about where our roster is right now, our two of our better players, or especially prime position players, are recovering from injury, so it's hard to. I'm not just going to sit here and assume they'll be 100% back. It's just a lot going on. So as of right now, I'm just trying to project us in that, like I said, early 20s, late teens range. And our three-point defense was actually there. I don't see it getting worse. I know you can say things about LaMelo's defense or whatever, but I don't think that it's going to have that much of an impact where it's all of a sudden become a concern. I think we did allow a lot of just tough shots. I think it was just sometimes effort, and I think the effort definitely picked up post All-Star break until the later part of the season. So I'm just not too concerned about it right now off the top, as of this second. But who knows as time can go on. Once again, we do need to get someone with some two-way potential, so I don't think anybody we get should be someone that's a traffic cone on defense because we can't afford it. But it did seem like, we were able to do something when it comes to the three-point shot, which is why that's not really in here. But for rim protection itself, we average 4.1 blocks per game, which is good enough for 27th in the league. Now, the reason I'm still high on that is because through 19 games, Mark Williams had 1.1 blocks per game. And blocks is a little different from rebounds, of course. It doesn't just because Mark Williams is comes in and getting more blocks does not take away blocks from other players. And with that being said, adding Mark's 1.1 blocks per game allows us to go from 27th to top 12 in blocks, just adding his one. So I think that we're in a good position when it comes to block, but just because a team is good at blocking, just because a player is good at blocking, doesn't necessarily mean they're good at protecting the basket. And in going into that, team shot 65.8%, less than 5 feet against us. And that was for 24th. And then from the 5 foot to 9 foot range, team shot 45.4%, 27th in the league. And then from the mid range to 15 foot to 19 feet, team shot 45.9%, which is also good for 27th. So as you could tell, we struggle with our shot contest, our rim protection. Blocks will not automatically make that better. It's just a matter of we just got to contest these shots. We got to put a body on these players, and that's kind of what we really need from our defense. As far as structure, I think Steve Clifford did kind of put together a decent blueprint of what it would look like. We had guys rotated. We had guys like specifically Trey Mann doing really well in the passing lanes. We had Micic even. He's not a good defender, but he put a body on somebody. He was in someone's way. But we just need that like aggressive defender. We need that guy that can really kind of switch in different positions. And we don't necessarily have that. And also a lot of it relies on guys who are two-way guys. Trey Mann is obviously more offensive than he is defensive. Obviously Micic. Miles Bridges, if he's not locked in defensively, of course, we see what he can do offensively. Brandon Miller, I think, is probably our best two-way player. And I'm not worried about LaMelo. I've always said if you can be a whole offense by yourself, then your defense really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for Hallie. I know what people say about Hallie from Indiana, but he's an offense by himself for that particular team, and it works out for them because they have kind of guys around. And that's what we should do in that sense is if we're going to have someone like LaMelo who can be an entire offense by himself, we need to surround him with defensive players, guys who just love playing defense, who are going to give the effort on defense. And I think adding some size, added some strength, added some versatility to our defensive side of the ball, I think that's going to clean up a lot of these numbers and put us, like I said, where I'm aiming for, the early 20s. Late teens as well, but I'm thinking these is more early 20s because one player by himself is not going to be able to do it. I think Mark Williams defending the rim and just kind of being a body down there and hopefully being tougher, I think is going to allow a lot of kind of bad shots will also make these percentages go down. Lastly, we got here, and this one, the number, the actual stat itself isn't bad, but when you look at kind of like the underlying layers of it starts to look bad. So playmaking. I think we need playmaking. That's crazy to say because I think Brandon Miller is a really good playmaker, especially in transition. Miles Bridges, I've seen him have some great passes this past season, and then hopefully that will continue going into next season. And then obviously, not last year, but the year before when he played, he was a really, really good just kind of connector guy, a guy that can find an open person, which is all we really need, and then also it would help if people hit shots. But for assists, after post-All-Star break, we had 25 assists per game, which is 22nd, high 20s, like I said. LaMelo Ball, in his 22 games, averaged 8 assists per game, and then I think we all remember watching those games and was like, if someone could hit a shot, he would easily be like a double-double averaging at that time. So maybe some shooting will help these numbers, but that's not my main concern because I think LaMelo's a tremendous passer, and of course, you get some guys who hit shots, his assist numbers are going to go up, but that doesn't tell the whole story. For me, the biggest thing is all of our key ball handlers have a 2-to-1 turnover to assist or assist to turnover ratio, and I know that's something that most people may not care about and say, oh, it's too like advanced statty, but it's something to look at because you want as a lead guard, you want a 3-to-1, and we don't have anyone on the roster that has a legit 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, which means that they're turning over the ball just as much as they're getting assists. LaMelo's like a 2.5. Micic, I believe, is a 2.5. Trey Mann's like at a 2 exactly. Maybe it's LaMelo was the one that was 2 exactly. Either way, The point is, we want a higher, of course, assist to turnover ratio, and some of that is going to be it's going to open up with spacing. Once we have guys that can really spread the floor, that's going to open up some lanes, and I think that's going to not allow people to play the passing lane as much, not put so much pressure on LaMelo. If we got, a secondary ball handler, which Brandon Miller, obviously can be, Miles Bridges obviously can be, so I think that's going to allow LaMelo to have a little less turnovers and not solely rely on him so much. Because I think one thing that's being said is anytime someone mentions LaMelo playing off ball, a lot of people assume that you're trying to make the stance that LaMelo shouldn't be the lead guard or he should be the shooting guard. No, I think that, at least when I say it, I can't speak for everybody, but when I say it, it's to alleviate LaMelo from all of that pressure. It's not like he can't handle it. We've seen him dominate games by himself even this year with the injury concerns. But I'm telling you, any guard will tell you that it helps to just have a couple of possessions off. LaMelo's a really good guy to come off screens. He's a really good guy to kind of set up in the corner if he needs to be. He can set up at the elbow. It doesn't matter. He's a really good off-ball player as well. So it's not like he's one of those guys where if he doesn't have the ball, he can't contribute. I think that's far from the truth. And having guys like Brandon Miller, having guys like Miles Bridges, and even Mark Williams to an extent on like certain like pick and roll, I think that it's going to open up the game for a lot of players. Trey Mann, Micic, I'm trying to think of all the key ball handlers, and I think it's going to up our assist to turnover ratio, which ultimately will be a good thing. Really, just the biggest thing for that stat, I think decision making. Of course, is going to be it because LaMelo does make some hard, rash decisions when he's trying to like save the team, and we saw that the team would be struggling. He's the only one that can make something go, and then he would try to do too much. So hopefully, with a better team around him, that will kind of dwindle down a little bit with his turnover. So there's a lot of things that go into that one stat. But that's why I wanted to point out that stat as opposed to assist, pure assist, just because I feel as though there's going to be some things. Because I think with assist, it's simply, if you look at it, the stat itself is just, if I'm passing someone the ball, are they hitting the shot? And just because our assist numbers are low, it doesn't mean that we're not getting looks. It's just guys weren't hitting. With assist to turnover ratio, I think that it speaks a lot more. It tells you that, okay, maybe their spacing's not good. Or maybe, they have guys who just aren't making good decisions. Or maybe that they're, not effective in the pick and roll. Or there's just a lot of different, maybe guys are just missing shots. It's a lot of other stuff that can go into it. And then like you all know, with no one else really able to operate, it leaves a lot of pressure on LaMelo. Teams are able to swarm him, blitz him, and it just, of course, leads to more turnover. So there's just a lot more that goes into assist to turnover ratio to me than just pure assist. But it doesn't change the fact that we need somebody that could be that connector. Cody Williams is a good name for it. Don Connect is another good name. Reed Shepard's going to be a good name for that. Rob Dilling. There's just a lot of players that kind of fit that mold of guys that can either alleviate LaMelo and just give him breaks, or someone that can just be the connector where LaMelo doesn't have to dribble the whole clock. He can feel comfortable kicking it to whoever this person is in the corner and them kind of being able to create something from there. Whether that is hitting LaMelo, when LaMelo comes off a screen or when LaMelo cuts or something like that. I think that will just open up the game for a lot of people, including our star. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing about this upcoming season is we just have to be catered to our star. Whether, I don't care how you feel about him, you have to make sure he has what he needs to be successful because he can only do so much. We saw that he's able to put the team on his back. So what is it going to look like when we have guys that can hit shots, have guys that can play defense, have guys that can alleviate a lot of that pressure? I think that no matter how you twist it, taking LaMelo off the court, we're going to see numbers fall. We're going to see the team not, be able to perform offensively the way they usually do. It is what it is. But what about those moments where LaMelo's getting double teamed or LaMelo's, has the really tough defensive assignment? Those are the times you have to maximize. Because, like I said, any good player you take off the court, your team's not going to do as well. It's just case in fact. There's nothing you can do about it. But if we can maximize those times he doesn't have the ball, but he's on the court, and allow him to use his other skill sets, and these guys can kind of hold up on their end, I think we're going to hopefully be in a good position. Like I said, right now, based on where the roster's at, without knowing too much about where Charles Lee is necessarily going to go with the team and where the front office is necessarily going to go with the team, I'm aiming for high 20s, late teens. Of course, there's some things that I want us, I do think we should be a better playmaking team. Considering where we were, no LaMelo, end of the season, 22nd, I can see us being a top 15 team when it comes to assists. Rebounds as well. I think that it will help. I don't know how much, is it really going to be night and day when we have our two players back? It's definitely going to help, but I just don't know if it's going to be night and day. But those are just those kind of stats. I want to get better in playmaking because I think that it will hopefully lead to just more guys getting confidence and more guys shooting. And then rebounding is another big one because, of course, I think that you could tell last night by watching OKC and the Mavericks as the Mavericks closed out that series. They were rebounding, and OKC couldn't do anything about it. And I think while it ended up being a 1-point game, I think rebounding was a big part of that. And then, of course, shooting. Those are the main three. I want to see a much better trajectory for next season. It doesn't have to be top 5, doesn't have to be top 10, but I need to see, I think, tremendous progression to know, okay, where are we going, and is this team sustainable to be a playoff team? I personally don't see us being necessarily a playoff team next year. We could be a team that beats expectations. We could be a team that takes advantage of a team falling, like maybe the Cavs. But are we a legit playoff team looking at the roster? I'm not quite sure yet. But lots of basketball, like lots of the summer to go, lots of just game planning stuff to go. Seeing the mentality of these guys, seeing how healthy LaMelo and Mark are, that's going to put a better trajectory onto the season, and seeing who we draft, which that's why I want to point out these stats, because there's a lot of guys in the draft class, and I'm not even just talking at the top 10, but even all the way throughout the draft class that can fit each and one of these needs. It's just a matter of what do you see is the most important. But anyway, thanks so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.